When we say fund, by the way, all it is just a pool of money. Investors put money into that pool. And then me and you as fund managers can draw from that pool of money and go make investments. So a fund is just the ultimate catalyst to scale your business. If money is the only thing stopping you from going to the next level, a fund is a really great vehicle to do this.
How does somebody start a fund? Like, prove to me that this is doable for the average guy.
I love it. No, and that's a great question. Let's dive into it. So, because it is a daunting task. And by the way, I'm going to say this up front. Starting a fund is not for everybody. It takes a serious mindset. And when you're going to take investor capital, that's a serious obligation, right? And I make sure people understand that. But it's not only reserved for a guy that has a JD MBA from Harvard. This is regular people are doing this, and it's an amazing vehicle. So,
and to differentiate, you have to have licenses to invest other people's money for them, but you don't have to have licenses to receive other people's money, pool it, and then go buy stuff together, right?
Exactly. Now on the licensing question, there's one license called the Series 65. That you need in some states and for some offerings. So, and we can go into the specifics there. Okay. A lot. I currently do not have any licenses, and all my funds I have not needed licenses, but based on my state and the offerings I'm doing. Some, and the Series 65 would be the only one you need to get for funds, which is actually really great. It's awesome, and you get huge tax incentives for running a fund as well. The IRS has incentivized fund managers to run funds. You pay capital gains rates on your income, which is awesome. There's so many benefits to running a fund. That's why guys like Mitt Romney and Donald Trump and guys that run funds, their tax returns are really low, right? Because they run funds and they're incentivized. Right. The IRS has said, we want more fund managers. It's actually pretty cool. So sorry, back to your original question though. How does one actually get in this game? Now we're going to start, I call this the fund launch formula. I'll go through it kind of quickly and you can ask questions, interrupt me, whatever you want. Okay. Now, most people jump to the money raising or how do I get the capital? How do I get investor? That's actually one of the last things we set up and do. And the example my dad gave me, actually, I was like, because I was so worried, how do I raise capital? No one's going to believe in me. I'm not graduated from college yet. I don't have the whatever XYZ thing. And he said, Bridger, here's the example he gave me. He goes, imagine me and you just found a Lamborghini Aventador in Billings, Montana. And the car is, it's worth $200,000, but we have a lady, she's going into bankruptcy. She needs to sell the car Saturday morning for $50,000. Okay. We've had a mechanic look at it. It's legit. We have a verified buyer that'll buy the car for $200,000 Monday morning in California. Okay. So cars, we can buy it for 50 grand Saturday. We can sell it for 200 on Monday morning. It's all set up. He goes, just go with me as an example. I'm like, all right, I'm with you. He goes, it's all checked out 100%. However, you cannot use any of your own money or bank money or anything else. You have to raise the 50 grand from private investors. It's 100% foolproof. You have till Saturday morning at noon to raise $50,000. Could you go find 50 grand? And I've never been asked a question like that before. And I kind of thought about it and I was like, and he goes, no, come on. You're going to make 150 grand this weekend. All you got to do is just raise 50 grand. I don't care how many people, whatever it is, 50 grand by Saturday morning. And I kind of thought about former bosses or college professors or friends, family, grandma, cousin, buddy from high school. And I kind of thought, yeah, I'm like, it's 100%. He goes, 100% foolproof. Could you do it? And I said, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to stay up late. I'll wake up early. I'll hustle hard, whatever. But I was like, yeah. You know what? I'll make 150 grand this weekend. Like, dang straight. Like, yeah, I could find it. And he goes, and I was like, yeah, I was feeling confident. He goes, what about $100,000? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I could talk to enough people. If it was 100% foolproof, verified, everything, I'm like, yeah, I could raise $100,000 by Saturday morning. And yeah, you got to pay back your investor and stuff, but I'm going to make a decent chunk of change on that. Like, dang straight. Like, I'm all in, baby. Let's do this. I'm ready for the grind. And he goes, why? Why could you do that? And I go, well, because the deal it's foolproof. Like you said, the example is 100%. And he goes, aha, there it is. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, 3 minutes ago, you were telling me you're too young, you're inexperienced, or whatever. And all of a sudden you're telling me you could raise $100,000 by Saturday morning. Why? Because the deal was so good. And he goes, the biggest problem that people in the money raising space have is they go pitch people like Jeff that are wealthy. They go, Jeff, you wouldn't want to invest in this deal, would you? You know? And I'm 75% confident on it. And, and they have all these things come in. If you find a deal that you're 100% confident in and money's the only thing stopping you, that's usually the biggest thing that stops people from raising money. So he goes, step number one to any fund or deal is find an incredible deal. Find that real estate property that's so juicy that it's almost like I would bet my entire life savings and my grandma and everybody's money on this because it's so good. It's not like I wish I'm crossing my fingers. It's like, no, I've checked under every rock. I mean, this thing's incredible. We're going to go do this thing. Find that. And so as you go, step one, find that incredible deal, right? Go and whether it's, and maybe it's not you, find a partner with great deals. I call these people broke geniuses. There's thousands of these broke geniuses around the world. They're not broke. They make a couple $100,000 a year and they trade their own crypto account or they go flip houses, but they have no clue how to set up a fund or how to raise capital. So go partner with these people and bring those deals together. So he goes like, step number one, find that incredible deal. Now, most people at this point go, okay, I found the great property to flip or the great thing to go buy or the great business I want to get into. Step two, I'm going to go find some lawyers. And it's like, hold on. Before you go hire the lawyers and spend, all the money to set up a fund, step two, go and frame your whole deal out. And by frame, I mean, run all the numbers, run scenarios, put together a pitch deck and marketing materials. Okay. Put it all together. And then step three, go and pitch investors. Before you have legal docs done, before you have everything, go and talk to investors. And what'll happen is let's use the example of an apartment complex. You found a 100-unit apartment complex. You've got great partners and a team around it. You're going to do this big deal. You go talk to an investor. You have a pitch deck together and you can start soft pitching investors. So you go to an investor like Jeff. Hey, Jeff, we've got this great deal. Let me run you through it. And you run through all the things now. And then you say, hey, we have not set up the legal documents yet. We're looking to close on this deal in the next 45 days. If everything checks out, we're still running appraisal. If all this looks good, can we put you down for a soft commitment of, $500,000? Now, pending that everything else checks out. And what you do is you can get really easy market feedback. And you're in the space of online marketing, right? It's 100% direct response marketing. You get market feedback. The customer tells you A/B test. You do the same thing in funds. You A/B test your offering with investors. You test, are we going to charge a 2% management fee? Are we going to charge carried interest? All these other terms and notes. Do people like the offering? And you can stress test your fund and your offering and products to investors. I'll usually go pitch 10 investors before I ever set up any legal documents or anything. And I soft pitch them. I let them know, hey, this is a soft pitch. I just want to get your feedback on this. If everything checked out, would you put some money in? And if, 9 out of 10 say no, I'm like, well, shoot. Well, what would you have liked to see? Well, we wish you guys had more experience, or we wish the property was a little bit different, right? Or we wish the business, and then you can go back and say, okay, well, if I fix those mistakes and come back to you in a month from now, would you be more interested? And usually they say, yeah. And so we go fix those things and we come back and you have this circle loop of iterating and fixing your product, your offering. And then finally, after you get those all those set up and all those, you have investors interested and they're ready to go, then only then, yes, you go hire the lawyers and get everything set up. And that's where, we all help you put it all together. And then you go, bam, you set up that fund and all the investors, the money's already there. Day one, your fund set up, you already have, that a big chunk of change, maybe 5-10 million already coming in, and bam, you go out and you do that big deal. Sorry, that was fast. I skipped a lot of stories in there, but I went through it kind of quickly. But for people, just back to your original question in general, that's what I would say. Number one, operate like money's unlimited. Start changing your mindset like money's unlimited. Number two, if you don't have the expertise, partner with someone who does. There are, especially in the fund game, a lot of people I know want to get into funds. They have this dream of one day running a private equity or a hedge fund, but they have no clue how to do it. And so if you understand how funds work and understand you can partner with really incredible, these broke geniuses, like I mentioned earlier, and bring them together and go from there. And it's an incredible vehicle. It's kind of like a buzzword when you bring it up to people. So it's an awesome place to get started.
So tell me more about, for the uninitiated, like what does that even mean to start a fund?
Yeah, well, and we'll start basic here and go, advanced. We can talk about whatever. You can feel free to interrupt me. But when we say fund, by the way, all this is the world of private equity, hedge funds, venture capital, debt funds, real estate funds. You might have heard those terms before. All those really are, in the most basic sense, all it is just a pool of money. Investors put money into that pool. And then me and you as fund managers can draw from that pool of money and go make investments. So a real estate fund has a pool of money. They go buy and sell real estate. I know you had Grant Cardone on the show and you guys talked. That's what Cardone Capital is. That's all they do. Instead of buying 4 plexes or 8 plexes or 12 plexes, they pool money together and they go buy 200 unit apartment complexes or 300 unit apartment complexes or office buildings, right? They pool capital together. Same thing, private equity. All private equity is a pool of money. Fund managers go and buy and sell privately held businesses. That's it. I have a buddy, he buys and sells funeral homes, literally mom and pop funeral homes. He buys them for like $1 million each, and he can turn around and sell them for double to bigger firms. So literally every year he buys about 8-9 funeral homes for about $8 or $9 million and sells them for.
And that's 18, a fund.
This is a fund. Yeah.
Okay.
About 17, 18 million. He turns around and sells them for. There's easy ways to make money and there's hard ways to make money. And I'm like, man, sounds like a pretty nice way to make some money. And so if you look at the last one, hedge funds, a hedge fund, all it is a pool of money. They take that pool and they go trade public securities. So stocks, bonds, Forex, crypto, right? All it is just allows you to scale. A fund is just the ultimate catalyst to scale your business. If money is the only thing stopping you from going to the next level, a fund is a really great vehicle to do this. And that's why the Forbes 100 list is riddled with fund managers. I mean, a kind of an infamous manager right now is Ken Griffin. He's the manager of Citadel. And they're the guys that are short on GameStop and short on AMC. And everyone talks about Ken Griffin. Little do people know, Ken Griffin, every year, he makes about $1.2 billion a year from his fund. Income, not like his net worth goes up, not like Jeff Bezos, like stock goes up and down. Right. Literally, he makes net profit to himself about $100 million a month. He makes to himself. That's the world of funds. That's not including his stock prices and personal investments and portfolio. From just his fund makes $100 million a month. So that's the world we're in. And that's why some of the wealthiest people on the planet are in this fund game. And that's what actually ultimately got me interested in this game and said, you know what? I don't care how long it takes me. I'm going to figure out what this game is and get into it.
You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about this after we met. And I guess for background, we met we both were speaking at an event in March, I think. Where was that? In Linden, Utah?
Yeah.
Linden. Yeah. We were speaking at this mastermind event up there. And I was like, I can't believe, because I had literally just gotten into your funnel like a month before that. And I was like, I can't believe I'm at this event. I think I'm supposed to be friends with this guy or something. And we hit it off. But I was thinking after we met that people probably think this sounds so out of reach or such a weird foreign concept. But like, if you think about, okay, you're taking other people's money, you're pulling it together, and then you're using it to acquire an asset. And then that asset goes up in value, and then you sell it. And then, you got to repay the people that you borrowed money for. You got to distribute the profits, or, they get their cut, right? But then you keep the difference. And the benefit is that you had leverage of other people's money. Everybody actually does that. Like literally there's 100 million people in the country doing that right now. They're called mortgage owner. They're called home buyers. The difference is instead of using a fund where you aggregated the money yourself, you used a bank where they aggregated the money for you. And then you borrowed the money, bought the asset, sold the asset, paid it back. It's like no different. You're just cutting the bank out is really what you're doing of pooling other people's money.
100%. Yeah, it really is. I mean, when you dumb it down, it's really not that crazy of a concept. And most people operate in their business or their world. And I was this way too. And I have to constantly get myself out. They operate with money constraints. Like we all do. We all have money constraints. And I could never buy a 30 unit apartment complex, at least not yet. I'm going to save up over time. When in reality, you could probably buy one in the next 4 to 6 months if you use the right vehicle in a fund. Instead of using bank aggregated capital, use a fund aggregated capital and start operating as if money is a very plentiful resource, which we know. We can talk about inflation. I'm laughing talking about it. People are so flush right now. It's insane about how much capital. It's never been an easier time in the world to raise money. And so, I mean, we have funds doing buying golf courses, flipping, like renovating them and flipping them, right? We have people buying solar farms. We have people buying almond farms. I mean, there is so many opportunities in the fund space right now. It's absolutely insane. So, I think it's made a great point though.
Yeah. So I'm trying to reduce people's resistance. Like, to be honest, if I found a really good vein, like what I'm doing right now. I mean, I have one of the fastest growing education companies in the world right now. I'll say this categorically. If I was not doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is a total unicorn, 1 in a million thing, I would be building a fund. People say, Jeff, what would you do if you were starting all over? I've thought a lot about it. I would build a fund. So for anybody, like the coolest job in the world is getting to be the founder and chief vision officer of Entre Institute. Second coolest job in the world, go start a fund. Like I seriously mean that. It's so crazy when you think about the opportunity. So let's back up though. How did you kind of stumble onto this? Because you didn't grow up to become a fund guy, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I started out, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. My dad started a number of businesses, and we had the feast and famine time periods of an entrepreneur household. And anyways, I got into college, and I was very just gung ho, ready to just out of the gates, ready to go. So I started 6 different businesses my first 2 years of college. I wish I had Entre Institute, but I started every business I could find on YouTube or an ad or whatever. I mean, I did real estate wholesaling. I did Forex trading. We built websites for people. I did Chinese tutoring. I mean, these weren't like business ideas. These were actually businesses up and running, making money my first years of college. And finally, my dad grabs me and he goes, Bridger, you're kind of like a chicken with your head cut off. I want you to go meet with one of my business partners. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll go meet with whoever. And he goes, this guy might be able to help you. So I drive to this guy's house. And I come through, it's a gated community. It's beautiful. I'm like, huh, like who's my dad's business partner? This is pretty cool. And I pull up this hill, and this beautiful white home kind of encompasses this cul-de-sac. It's just gorgeous. And I park my car, and I'm kind of like, who is this guy? Who's my dad's business partner? This is pretty crazy. And I get out of the car. Sorry, I'm going too long, but knock on his door, and he invites me, and we sit down on his big couches, and we start to talk. And we start chatting about life and school and what I'm doing and all this kind of stuff. And I finally ask him, I just go, how did you get all of this? Right. And I kind of point at everything. Like, how did you do this? House, car, pool in the backyard, like all the cool stuff. And he goes, it's funny. Not very many people ask that question. And I was like, oh shoot, sorry. I didn't know if that's the wrong thing to say. He goes, no, you're fine. It's just a lot of people don't have that mindset. But he goes, when I was in my 20s, I was a lot like you. I started a number of businesses. I actually did very well. We had some good businesses, but then I met 2 guys that were running a private equity fund, and they introduced me to the secrets of the rich, the ultra wealthy families of the world. And this is what they all work in the fund space. If you, from a very, the Vanderbilt family, the Rockefeller family, they want their kids to go work in investment banking or consulting and eventually work in hedge funds or private equity, and either go run those big funds or come back home and run the family office. Mm-hmm. And he said, I didn't care how long it took me. I didn't care if it took me 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years. I was going to figure out what a fund was, how to start one, and how to scale one. And he goes, that's what we did. And he goes, and this is a number of years ago, but he goes, at the time, it was me and your dad started a fund, and we manage right now over $8 billion of real estate. And my job, I dropped before. I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah. And to put that in perspective for people, Grant, we mentioned Grant Cardone earlier. Cardone Capital currently manages about $2 billion. Mm-hmm. These guys were managing $8 billion in real estate today. As of right now, they manage over $25 billion of real estate, multifamily, commercial office, senior assisted living, pretty much the same asset class. It's just incredible what they were able to do. And so I was very intrigued. I wanted to learn more about this fund space. And I asked him, I said, and I've always heard from people like you, Jeff, find a mentor. Right? Find someone who can teach you. And I said, hey, can you be my mentor? Can you teach me how to do this? And he goes, Bridger, go talk to your dad. Your dad knows way more about this than I do. I said, no. My dad's poor. He drives a car with 300,000 miles on it. Like, you're obviously rich. Like, can I learn from you? And he goes, Bridger, me and your dad, we make about the same amount of money. And my chin about dropped to the floor. I was like, huh? Like, come again? He's like, yeah, I mean, we're pretty much equal business partners. I left the guy's house. I drove straight to my dad's house. I was like, Dad, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, you're making all this money. Like, why haven't I been able to order a soda at Chipotle for the past 5 years because it's too expensive and you're making all this money. Like, what's going on? And anyways, long story short, he laughs. He goes, yes, I'm running this big fund. And we started to, and over the next 8 months, he started to teach me about funds, how they worked, how to raise capital, how to file with the SEC, all this kind of stuff. And about 8 months later, I was working at another job. And I had this great idea. I was in college. I was like, oh my gosh, we could start a fund within this business. We could lend money to the clients that are coming through this business. And we could start a little fund around this. I talked to the owners of this business. They love the idea. I talked to my dad. He loved the idea. We put together all the stuff. I'm 22 years old at the time. And I'm like, we got a fund here. And for whatever reason, I overlooked the biggest piece of a fund is investors, right? You need investor capital. And I was like, shoot. But I thought, well, no, my dad will invest. He's rich. Apparently he doesn't spend his money. He's obviously got money to spare. He'll love to invest in my fund. And so I remember it was a late Sunday night. I remember knocking on my dad's office, home office door. And I walked in, I said, Dad, I want to thank you so much for helping me with my fund. And in my best pitch voice possible, I said, Dad, how would you like to be our first investor into this fund? And he kind of laughs and he goes, Bridger, if I invest in your fund, I would ruin the experience of you raising money on your own. This is a skill set and a crutch that you'll never be able to recover from. And he said, no. And he kicked me out and he said, you got to go figure this out on your own. And so it was a big tough love moment between me and my dad. And I kind of walked out of the office with my tail between my legs, but I took him up on the offer. And I went out and I talked to everybody I knew and I was 22 years old. I raised a whopping $49,000 from like 6 or 7 investors, teeny micro fund. I mean, probably as small as you can make a fund, but it was enough to get started. We were doing these micro loans. They were like $1,000 to $5,000 a loan. So it was enough to get going. We started that first fund. Our first group of investors got a 64% return. They did it. It was awesome. We closed that fund. We launched a second fund. That fund, we actually made it a lot bigger. We raised and deployed millions of dollars out of that fund, did really well. And we actually just sold that fund a couple months ago. And right now I'm looking to launch. We're actually having all the paperwork put together for our third fund right now that we're going after. So anyways, it's been an incredible journey. And then since then we started Investment Fund Secrets to bring my dad, and my brother's actually a securities attorney as well, to help more people learn about this fun game that regular people like me and you can do this. My dad grew up in North Las Vegas and, bad part of town, graduated college with C's and B's. I mean, really never did any of the Ivy League stuff, but yet is on top of a $25 billion family of real estate funds. It's pretty cool. So anyways, that's kind of how I got in the game. And it's a beautiful, beautiful industry and game to be in because of the earnings potentials are just so massive.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Obviously I've heard your story. I knew your story. I think it's so funny that your dad like totally bamboozled you your whole childhood.
Yeah.
No, and I got to imagine that you're actually grateful now for the way he answered that question.
Oh, 100%. And to this day, he still has never invested in a single deal, project, fund, anything I've taken to him. And I pitch him all the time and he still says no, but he's taught incredible principles and been a great mentor. And every time I've had a question, he's always answered the phone and been able to help us. And he's just been a great advisor, but I really respect him for that. And to give him credit, by the way, after his kids moved out of the house, he went and bought a huge mansion and has, he's spent some money. He's doing well, but I really respect him for that.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, there's a whole other conversation there about parenting and how you raise your kids. Cause yeah. I grew up around a lot of kids that had a lot of money, and I can't say that I can't say none of them turned out, but I definitely can't say they all turned out so hot. So that's a really cool. I respect your dad a lot. I'd love to meet him someday, but okay. So yeah, I mean, you're the only guy I've seen in the market, and there aren't a lot of offers that I can say. I can only think of one guy doing. Are you the only guy out there that you know of teaching the fund game?
Yeah, to my knowledge, pretty much. I mean, there's other people that teach how to raise capital.
Yeah.
Like this is how you raise money for your business. And like, this is how no one teaches a fund. Like we're really currently the only player in the market, and we're going after it.
Why do you think that is? Because I understand on the surface, it's got there's a certain amount of complexity to it. It's like, I would say it's a little more sophisticated than like becoming a real estate agent, but it's not like becoming a rocket scientist or something. So why do you think more people haven't gravitated to teaching this model? It's because it's like so good. And I know your success stories are so real. I'm almost surprised you haven't created imitators.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. And I bet they're coming, the imitators are coming for sure. But a few reasons. I think number one, it's a hard barrier to entry to teach funds. And I understand the uniqueness of my position. I have a brother who's a securities attorney, a dad who's co-founded a deca-billion-dollar fund. And then I've started 2 funds, and none of us did the Harvard route. None of us did the Ivy League route. And so I think that story, and I understand it's unique. And that's why we started this thing, because we want more people to learn this, because the potential competitors, they've been 7 generations to Harvard. You know what I mean? It's a different story there. Or the other side of the thing is they're running a fund and they're already just crushing it.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
a good point.
Why?
They're
why would I go
literal
start a
billionaires?
course?
They're like, why am I going to sell a course on the internet?
And that's how actually I've been a little bit like our fund. I'm like, that's where I want to spend the time on the fund. I mean, I actually just my personality. I like doing this, and I'm sure you do too. I like having a course, having people come in and helping them, but the fund is way more lucrative than that. So that's where I think that's why the competitors are few and far between for funds. Is number one, the barrier to entry is high. To teach this, like it's Facebook ads, anybody can teach Facebook ads.
Right.
Very few people can teach launching and scaling a fund and have a story to back it up with actually legit, stats and behind it. So,
yeah. And I got to imagine, I mean, it's kind of like myself. There is such a joy in showing things to the world that kind of break the mold, or they contradict the narrative that you have to be born with a silver spoon, or you have to be some, uniquely talented genius, prodigy, or that you have to have some special X factor to do a really successful thing in this world. I know for me, it's kind of like you, like I was a broke jazz musician who started marketing on the internet and got some things to work and had a great success story. And now I'll spend the rest of my life trying to inspire other people with that story. And I guess you've got that too, but so it's really not about the money, because I got to imagine you could make more money just scaling funds. Yeah.
And we still do. That's where I've partnered up on one, potentially 2 this next month, other funds, and we're launching our own fund as well. Anyways, the fund game is awesome. But yeah, back to your point, I actually thoroughly enjoy investment fund secrets and the companies we're helping. We have a number of companies, like you mentioned at the beginning, doing extreme things. I mean, we have 2 companies in the last month that have raised $50 million in a month for their fund. It's really cool to hear what they're doing. So,
hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to let you know you can get a free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut, which will show you the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy. And there's a special link just for this episode in the description. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
It's so entrepreneurial what you're describing. You're, like you said, you're soft selling, you're getting feedback from the market, you're creating, in an entrepreneurship context, we would talk about creating your minimum viable product or service, right? Like what's the least amount of work you can do before you can go gauge the market's appetite. That's what you're doing, really. You're creating a minimum viable fund product. You haven't even started the damn fund yet, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, as a sales tactic, getting micro commitments, getting a softer yes is a lot easier way to get to a harder yes than to come in right out of the gate, having spent all this money, set up the fund under a deadline to close. And you're like, I need an answer. Like, well, do you like it? And they say, yes. You go, good. I need you to sign right now. The money needs to be there in 3 days. I'll tell you this, a lot of really wealthy people, there's this saying they have that says, if you need to know right now, the answer is always no. You will get so much further when you don't seem desperate and you're really just gauging their interest. They appreciate that. They actually, as somebody who's, actually managed to make a few bucks now in my life, I like looking at deals, but I don't want everybody that shows me a deal to sit there impatiently until I say yes. I like the game. I like the exchange.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I like that. But what about this? And could we do this? And you start to work your way into those circles and those conversations, but you're not in there demanding that they sign on day one. I love that. I love that approach, man.
Yeah, 100%. It really is a lot of, I mean, MVP, and then it's really a funnel, right? You're getting investors in. I mean, if you look at a funnel way of, it really is that way. You're pitching investors, hopefully getting a soft commitment. If not, there's usually a follow-up call or 2 follow-up calls to actually send over documents and actually get money wired. You kind of have this whole, anyways, I could draw it out for you, but this whole funnel strategy of doing it. But yeah, it's actually very similar.
If only there was like a product or a course or something that would teach me all these investment fund secrets, then you wouldn't have to draw it out.
I know, exactly.
In fact, they should even call it that, investment fund secrets. I wonder if something like that exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we'll talk about that. Yes.
That's what we do. That's what we teach and love. It's awesome. And that's the last thing I'll add on this. This is the opposite of what the Harvard guys teach. And I go through a lot of courses and training online and blogs and stuff like that. And people that write on how to start a fund, they literally say that this is their strategy. Day one, go hire some lawyers, spend $50,000, set it all up. And then next day, go start pitching investors and do a harder close, try to go around, all these things. And you haven't tested anything. You haven't got feedback on it. And if investors don't like it, sorry, you're down 50 grand, right? It's a very inefficient way to launch a business. And I think it ultimately stops a lot of people from starting their fund.
So I guess the 2 questions that jump to mind, where do I find deals and where do I find investors?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. You're kind of off again. The course goes in detail, and I'm not asking you to air it all out because we literally don't have time. And also that's the beauty of your course. But dude, at a high level, are you confident saying to somebody, listen, there's so many deals out there. Don't worry, you can go find them. And ditto for investors.
It's actually funny. I had a fund manager in my show 2 weeks ago. He manages about 200 million. And he's like, it's funny right now in the current, this is 2021 marketplace. We have a lot of investors. Everyone's got money. Everyone's flush right now. Right. And you have fewer and fewer deals. And in 2009, it was the opposite. You had lots of deals and very few investors, right? And so it fluctuates that way. So on the investor side of thing right now, I can't believe how easy, relatively easy it is to raise capital in this marketplace. I mean, there is so much slush money flowing around. For people in our course, the money raising is really not the problem for most of our funds. And we help make introductions. There's investor groups looking for you. Guys, there are people that literally get together once a month. They're called the Salt Lake City Angels or Denver Angels, or whatever. They get together once a month, hoping people show up and pitch them funds and pitch them deals. I'm sure you're part of a few of those groups, Jeff. I mean, people like Jeff and me, and we're looking to deploy capital, right? They are actively looking for you, which is great. Now, on the deal side of things, back to your other question, in the current marketplace, that's what we've seen is been harder for people to find. Now, deals is a big topic. There's lots of things. So what we've seen is a lot of niche funds have been very successful recently. Yes, you can start a fund that goes after 200 unit apartment complexes, but now you're competing against the huge multifamily funds of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And there's big players there. So we've seen a lot of niche funds do very, very well. Airbnb funds, right? They just buy Airbnb. Yesterday I was on a call with a guy, manages a $50 million VC. They just invest into blockchain companies, right? I mentioned this earlier. They're investing in solar farms, green energy, almond farms. I have 2 guys in our group. They literally go to Hollywood. They buy scripts from broke writers that write miniseries and stuff. They buy these scripts for like 15 grand, 20 grand. They turn around and sell them to HBO, Netflix, Amazon for 150 grand, 200 grand a script.
Wow.
That's all they do. Right? There's these little niches of funds that do extremely well that we've met with and helped. So, now me personally, by the way, I don't claim to be that smart of an investor. I don't at all. I tell people I'm a very average investor. Yes, I have some rental properties. I got crypto. I've got a nice portfolio. I know what but I don't claim to be a savant in investing. However, I go find, like I said, broke geniuses or partners who are extremely good at investing, and that's all they eat, sleep, and drink is crypto exchanges and investing. And we're looking at maybe starting a crypto fund here pretty soon. And that's all they do. And I say, great, I'm good at running funds and I'm good at raising capital. Let's bring it together. And every fund has those 3 pieces, which is, I'll use my hands, but I call them the expert investor, I call it a fund manager, and then the money raiser, 3 pieces. Now you can do 2 of the 3. You can do a slice of the 3. You can do all 3 if you'd like, but that's typically what we see there. So
I love that you said that. I love that you said that. I want to kind of punctuate that. So you've got the expert guy, they call him the technician who understands the opportunity. You've got the fund manager who's kind of like, I guess, the nuts and bolts guy, the bean counter. He makes sure that it's properly registered. It's, that investors get regular updates and that profits get distributed. And then you have the front man, the bridger, the guy who goes out and, shakes the trees and gets the money, right?
100%. Yep.
So I would imagine everybody listening, because they might be like going, well, I'm not like Bridger. I don't feel comfortable going and knocking on doors and asking for money, because that's like a really weird thing for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Great. But can you see yourself as any of those 3 people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you can, you just got to find the other 2 and you're in business.
100%. And that's what in our side of our course, and that's what we try to connect people. We actually have a number of funds. That's our first thing we ask people. Are you the money raiser? Are you the expert investor? Or are you the fund manager? And if you're not one of the 3, we train you how to be the fund manager and money raiser. I don't train people on investing because there's plenty of courses out there that teach you how to invest and make money on Bitcoin or whatever. But I don't plan to do that, but we'll teach you how to be a great fund manager and a great money raiser. So as well.
So cool. So cool. Okay. So we've probably got a lot of people ready for me to ask, how do they go get this course? And also, how do they find you online, just if they just want to track and learn more?
Yeah. Well, it's been fun to be on today, Jeff, by the way. Thanks for having me. Bridger Pennington is my name. So Bridger Pennington on YouTube. We try to put out a lot of content there, and Bridger Pennington, Bridger_Pennington on Instagram. If you DM me on there, I'll respond, but our stuff is called Investment Fund Secrets. So investmentfundsecrets.com or bridgerpennington.com. You can go there. We actually have a free course we've just launched. I think tomorrow it goes live as the filming. So by the time this gets out, it should be live. You guys can hop in. We have a whole free course and a guide and everything on there. You guys can just test it out, see if a fund's a right fit for you on there. So bridgerpennington.com and go check all that out. And you guys can get the free course, download it all, run through all the videos. We have all bunch of pieces of content to help you guys launch funds.
Yeah. So. I'm looking at your website, man. You got a great looking site. You got looks like you got your own show. You've got a bunch of blog posts on there. Yeah, man, this is so cool, dude. By the way, it's like somebody who's been a fan for 6 months and a friend for almost that much time. I'm like so happy. I'll tell everybody this, just in the time that I've known Bridger, which is like 4 months, you're the number of students, the size. I remember the first time we talked and you told me the size of the results that some of your students have gotten. Like, this thing's growing fast. Yeah.
We've only been doing this, 18 months? We've got right now over 4,000 students. We're growing pretty quickly. We have a lot of fun scaling, doing well. It's fun to be a part of. Again, that's why I said I love running it.
If you love entrepreneurship, then you'll want to keep watching. So click the next interview right here for some more Millionaire Secrets gold. Thanks for watching.
I like to put my cash into long-term investments. So like cryptocurrency, the stock market, real estate. So while that is appreciating long-term, I'm using the business credit to invest into short-term investments.